If you think that's bad, wait till you get my bill. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you for another one of my famed Blu-ray reviews. Very, too much of our happiness of us Dr. Giggles fans. It was announced, I think, early this year, or something like that, 2023, that Scream Factory would be releasing Dr. Giggles on Blu-ray. And it's been on Blu-ray before, but a kind of a goofy double feature release that I never got. I only got the DVD version of that, and I dropped it in the DVD version of that release with the 185 scan. And as we'll get into, the aspect ratio that I prefer for this release, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So what is this billed as? I don't think it even says on here, does it? I think this is a new 2K scan. If it's higher, I'm pretty sure it's a new 2K scan. But at any rate, I'm here to review the recently released Scream Factory release of Dr. Giggles on Blu-ray. But this is one that I didn't know if I was going to get right away, if I was going to wait for it to come down in price. And it's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm worth it. This movie's been a big part of my life since 1992. I'm relatively fond of it, although watching it again, it's not that amazing of a movie. Feel free to check out, I did do a movie review of it. It's one of my most viewed videos on the channel. If you want to know what I think about the movie, I did a relatively, I would imagine, I can't remember how long it was, if it was 30 minutes long, but if you want to know what I think about the movie itself, please search my review of Dr. Giggles, the movie itself, on this channel. This is simply just a review of this recent Blu-ray release. So it's kind of a bummer. It turns out that I didn't want to wait. Just go for it. I deserve it. I'm worth it. So I just paid the whopping, whatever it was, 25 bucks for the Blu-ray right now, because I couldn't wait for it to drop to what, 22 or whatever. It was like, just do it. I'm worth it. So I did it. And am I glad? Yeah, I mean, this got rave reviews and video quality on Blu-ray.com, and understandably so. But one thing that I want to say right off the bat, which I noticed, and granted, I haven't seen the VHS version or the Laserdisc. I actually did. I don't know if I still have it, but I actually did have this on Laserdisc. So I haven't seen the original version with the Universal, and then, well, it's not even on here, but I want to say it's Largo. Is it Largo? I think it's Largo. So originally in the theater when this came out, it was Universal logo, 80 or 90s CGI version, the first CGI Universal logo. Then it was Largo, with the red line that kind of comes down and the logo tilts up from like a laying down position, a JVC company or whatever. So instantly when I put this in, I didn't know if my sound was off or what. I was very much aware that. So when the Universal logo comes up, it's silent. It's not like the whatever it is, dun 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 dun. It's not the music or anything. It's just silent. And then I was kind of like, well, that seems weird. I don't think that's how it was. But then when the Largo logo comes up, it's also silent. And I'm absolutely sure that back in the day on home video, that had the normal Largo logo music, which is do whatever the hell it is. There's some music that goes with the Largo, logo. And I do want to say that it's very possible that it's kind of a bummer for us purists and people who have seen this movie either in the theater or on home video in the 90s. That the Universal logo and the Largo logos are silent for some reason. So that right off the bat, that was kind of a bummer. It's a thing that's not going to be a deal breaker, but it's kind of a bummer because it's kind of like you want the movie as close to what you experienced either in the theater or in my case on home video when it was brand new on home video. And things like that are important, and I talked about this in one of my reviews of the second most recent release of Terror Train on Blu-ray, where the Fox logo, which is what I've been watching the whole movie since frickin' '92. You always like to see that early '80s grainy ass Fox logo. Well, that Blu-ray had the United Artists logo, probably because it was like a European print or something like that. So I mean, those little things. I mean, imagine the Paramount logo being replaced by Warner Brothers or Lionsgate when you watch Friday the 13th. It's like those things are important, and that kind of stuff for me as a movie geek, I mean, that's part of the experience. I mean, it's like changing the music, or how if there's like, if there's a song in a movie or something and they lost the rights, so they have to change the song, or this kind of stuff. Like changing it in any way, even something as simple as taking away the little music that goes with the Largo Entertainment logo. I mean, that's altering it. And say what you will, call me insane or whatever. It's very possible that has happened with this release, and that's a little bit of a bummer. But once you get past that, I mean, things seem to be, normal. But this goes on to my other complaint about this release, which I wish they would have released it a double disc version. I mean, admittedly, they restored the original theatrical aspect ratio with this release in does it say right here? Yeah, 2:3:9 version, which is the really widescreen. I guess I can put this here so it doesn't fall again. And, admittedly, okay, so I originally saw this for the first time bought the VHS and was watching the VHS. And if you didn't know, this movie is shot in the same kind of thing James Cameron used back in the day, and with movies like, The Abyss and Terminator 2 and True Lies, and possibly even Titanic, and he even does it with the Avatar movies. In the theater, the Avatar movies are really widescreen, and when they come out on home video, they're 1.85 to fit your 16:9 TV, which I think is a really great way to do it. And Dr. Giggles was shot in this. I don't know in a version of that I think was called Super 35mm. Now I don't know if this is the same thing. I would imagine it has the same effect, which is, imagine filming this movie like basically more or less like a square or something like that, and then going in. And when you're filming it, you're aware of, where you're going to crop top and bottom, and then going in and cropping the top and bottom for the theatrical super widescreen version. Because when I originally saw this on home video and on VHS, and I'm going to show all three versions from probably one main scene, I would imagine, to illustrate this point. So when I saw this originally on VHS in the early 90s, you're seeing, more on the top and bottom than you would have seen in the theaters. And I don't know, I think the amount that you're missing side to side is negligible. I think that in a normal pan and scan situation, with a movie, like with the Star Wars movies or something like that, like the quote unquote full screen version, you're losing the image. But with this Super 35 situation or whatever, it's more like you're the widescreen version, you're seeing less of the image than the fuller screen versions. So my complaint with this release is, admittedly it's restored to its proper theatrical aspect ratio of 2:3:9, but it's kind of like, with the exception of the Laserdisc release or seeing it in the theater, I mean, no one's seen it that way on home video for years and years and years and years. So all of us have gotten used to either the VHS version or, most likely and most recently, the Warner Brothers DVD and Blu-ray releases, which I was really pleasantly surprised with when that came out and I got the DVD, is that they opened up, like James Cameron does with his Avatar movies and Titanic for 3D on home video, what is it? 2:3:9 to 1.85 to go top and bottom of your 16:9 display. And I was like, well, this is the way we should experience Dr. Giggles, and that was the way I've experienced it for years with that Warner Brothers DVD. In a perfect world, I would have said 2 discs, with the original aspect ratio of 2:3:9, and then the second disc could have been the 1.85 aspect ratio, because honestly, there's the one scene at the very beginning where, the kids are all getting together after school's out and they're talking about, Breeders' Hill and all this and that. And if you don't know, I think her name was Zoe Trilling or something like that. A really super ass hot chick from the late 80s, early 90s, Amityville 4, Night of the Demons 2. For whatever reason, way too little of a part in this film. I think she's in other movies probably as well, but super ass sexy chick in horror movies in the early 90s and stuff. Well, I don't think she's really necessarily been topless in anything, but granted she's wearing clothes in this scene, but definitely the Warner Brothers DVD version, you can see, how well endowed she is in the breast area. And for a guy like me, that's enjoyable. Even if she's wearing clothes, you can see her outfit. Looking at the VHS screenshot, you can see obviously it's more of a square image when you compare it to the DVD 185 version. And we can go back and forth between VHS and DVD for a moment here. You will notice that in fact the image on the sides is a little bit cropped on the VHS version to accommodate for the more squarer image. So you lose a little bit on the sides to achieve the square. So that is in fact what is happening between VHS and the 185 DVD release. So it gets really interesting when you compare DVD release to the recent Blu-ray release that is formatted in the correct quote-unquote theatrical aspect ratio of 2:3:9. Basically, when you compare the DVD to the Blu-ray, you've got a situation where you're absolutely gaining absolutely nothing on the sides and only losing on top and what looks like mostly bottom here. Personally, I regard losing image as not being a positive thing and would rather see more image than less image. I'd rather see more of Zoe trilling than less of Zoe trilling, if you know what I mean. So in my particular case, and I kind of had this thought when the DVD came out, although I didn't compare it to the VHS and the 2:3:9 actual aspect ratio of the Laserdisc, theatrical aspect ratio that it's supposed to be. I contended that the 185 DVD version, which also came out on Blu-ray in a double feature thingy, was the best way to watch Dr. Giggles. And when you compare all three of these screenshots, full screen VHS, 185 DVD, and the 2:3:9 Blu-ray, I think that it's only makes sense that the DVD, at least in my opinion, is the winner in this situation. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think. Would you rather see more of the image or less of the image? I guess in lieu of seeing it in the correct theatrical aspect ratio. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just situation of personal preference, but I definitely stand on the 185 DVD version as being the ideal way to experience Dr. Giggles, and it's kind of a bummer that the recent Blu-ray release doesn't offer an option. I think a best case scenario would have been, as I said, the 2:3:9 aspect ratio on one disc and the 185 aspect ratio on the other. That would have been the ultimate Dr. Giggles Blu-ray release. I was sitting here thinking about it, and it's like, God, it almost makes me want to just, when I go to watch this movie, to watch the Warner Brothers DVD, because I don't know. I mean, I think seeing less, I mean, whether it's the correct ratio or not, I mean, I kind of, I don't know if seeing less is a better of the two choices, really. I mean, do you want to see less or do you want to see more of what? I mean, it's really weird, like the Super 35 phenomenon and stuff, because it's like, it's the only situation where the widescreen version you see less than the non-widescreen version. So I wanted to start with that for this review, because I think that's for us who've watched this movie in the past several years, decade plus, on this Warner Brothers DVD, it's like all of a sudden now we're getting the movie cropped, and it's just a little bit of a bummer, and it's a little bit of a bummer. So that's the one thing I wanted to start off with this review, getting into the video quality. I'm pretty sure it's a new 2K scan of something or other, some film elements, and as can be expected, it's a very, very handsome scan, very, very, I think the grain is pretty heavily prevalent, and which is good for me because I'm a grain guy. Very, very saturated colors, very, very, very good film transfer, film scan for this release. I'm not really keen on the nighttime cinematography in the terms of, like, it's got this green like at night, and if it's dark scenes and stuff. I don't know if it's so much indoors, but outdoors for sure. It's like there's this, I don't know, it's kind of an icky kind of a green, I don't know, kind of tint or something like that. I'm not crazy about the nighttime exterior photography or some of the nighttime exterior photography. It's mostly like around like the Dr. Giggles character's house or something like that or whatever. But yeah, I mean, obviously the image on this Blu-ray release is really good. I can't compare it to the original Blu-ray release because I haven't seen it, but even the DVD, the Warner Brothers DVD, looks really good. So I'm not too sure it's that much of an uptick from that. Like I say, the fact that it's the correct aspect ratio kind of ruins the whole experience for me, and it does make me wonder if when I go to watch this, if I'm going to watch the Blu-ray or the Warner Brothers DVD. It's really going to be like it's like, you know, the clarity of the Blu-ray versus seeing more of the image. It's like I got to pick one. It's kind of a bummer, but admittedly the image quality is great. It's just I always go back to that bummer aspect of seeing less than I've seen for the past several years on DVD, but admittedly nothing really to complain about with the video quality. Looks fantastic. Sound-wise, this has always been a rather good sounding movie. I don't imagine the Warner Brothers DVD, I don't think this was ever 5.1. I can't remember what the DVD was, but regardless, this is a 2-channel DTS Master Audio Stereo Surround, which actually does the job just fine. It's amazing how, you know, competent even back in like the early 90s, just simple 2-channel stereo surround soundtracks were. Like, you know, it's not like it's, you know, one would think, oh, it's not 5.1, it might as well be mono. Well, that's not the case. I mean, stereo surround can sound really, really good. So, and as is the case with this Blu-ray release, the audio sounds really good with the amazing Brian May score and sound effects and stuff. Really, really fun aspect to this movie, and very well reproduced on this Blu-ray release. As we can see here, special features: Laughter is the Best Medicine, Making Dr. Giggles, featuring new interviews with director Manny Coto, and a never-before-seen archival interview with actor Larry Drake. Pretty sure that's just Manny Coto talking, recounting the experience with this production, and also, as is indicated, a archival interview with Larry Drake. It's entertaining. I can't remember how long it is, but it's definitely entertaining. Relatively decent special feature. I wasn't aware that he actually directed Playroom, a movie that Beth and I have recently seen and really liked. So he kind of mentions Playroom in this little interview, which is interesting. We've got another feature here, Melodies of Madness, the film scores of Brian May, featuring new interview with film music historian Randall D. Larson. Wow, a last name I can pronounce. Yeah, I didn't watch this because I'm not too interested in hearing from people that didn't have anything to do with their production, so I can't comment on this video extra. And you've got Vintage Featurette, which is cool, theatrical trailers, which are fun, VHS teasers, which are fun, and TV spots, which are fun. Admittedly, a kind of a not too jam-packed full of special features released compared to years of old on Scream Factory releases, but what the hell, you're here for mainly the new HD scan in the cropped frickin' proper aspect ratio of whatever the hell it is. I've seen it so many. Is it 239? 239, alright. I remembered it. But that's what you're mainly here for, the movie presentation with the cropped frickin' aspect ratio and a little bit of whatever extras they can scrounge up. Luckily, we seem to kind of be past, or at least in more recent releases that I've seen, more or less past the era of like Skype, internet video quality interviews kind of bullshit. We all know why the hell we've got some of those kind of interviews in recent Blu-ray releases, but hopefully, or at least for now, we're kind of past that. But whatever. I mean, when you buy a movie like this, it is more about watching the movie at the end of the day than the special features, although those Skype frickin' interviews with just shitty quality and shitty frame rate video was really shitty. The disc art looks like this. If I had my choice, that's exactly what I'd make the disc look like, so hats off to Scream Factory for at least getting that right. No reversible cover art in this case, we just simply have a still frame from the movie, Dr. Giggles. So it's an interesting release. Like it's kind of a bummer that, you know, the image quality looks amazing, but once again in closing, it's a little bit of a conundrum with the whole aspect ratio thing. Feel free to leave your thoughts about what you think of the whole aspect ratio. You probably have a better chance to understand it now that I showed you all 3 different versions of how it could be viewed at home, the original VHS full screen version and the widescreen 185 Warner Brothers DVD release, and now the correct aspect ratio from the Blu-ray. Feel free to let me know what you think. I mean, All I know is I think at the end of the day, seeing more of the image is better than seeing less. I'd be interested to see what you guys think. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.